we need to connect our hearts with God and with other people. The way I've said this often in the past is Jesus, if you want to communicate like Jesus, you have to communicate heart to heart. That's the way Jesus communicated. And quite honestly, we don't do that anymore. We use the internet and kind of leave that completely out. Part of the advantage of being nose-to-nose, face-to-face is it's easier to get heart to heart. It's hard to do in a Zoom meeting. No offense, it's just hard, right? How many have learned to like Zoom meetings? Anybody? I'm okay with Zoom meetings. I'm okay, but you're missing something. Because if the goal is to connect heart to heart in everything you do, I mean, literally, in everything you do, connect heart to heart. It's hard to do with some of, our craziness today. So, Jesus is teaching. 4 guys want to help their buddy dig a hole in the roof. That's the language. They dug through the roof. And they lower this guy down. And it says that their faith would save him. And Jesus said, your sins are forgiven. So nobody's upset about the hole in the roof. Nobody's upset that the guy's healed. They're upset that Jesus said, your sins are forgiven. This is Mark chapter 2, verse 8, then it says, Jesus knew immediately what they were thinking. He knew immediately what was going on in their hearts. So he asked them, okay, he's connecting heart to heart. Do you get this? I'm going to go through several passages. This is going to be the point of all of them. Every time you see Jesus interacting with people, he's connecting on a heart level with them. So immediately, he knew what they were thinking. So he asked them, why do you question this in your hearts? Do you question with your heart? I thought you questioned with your brain. All the above. Right? Your heart is as much about what you're thinking as it is about what you're feeling. So, Mark chapter 3, verse 5. He looked around at them angrily and was deeply saddened. Why? What was he seeing? Hard hearts. He was saddened by their hard hearts. Then he said to the man, hold out your hand. It's hard to get, what is his emotion he's feeling right now? It's like, I'll show you. I don't know what he's going on, but he looks around and, okay, in the chapter before, these 4 guys have faith. They lower the guy down, and based on their faith, he heals this guy. And this one, he looks around and they're all hard-hearted. So he just does it. He said to the man, hold out your hand. So the man held out his hand, and he was restored. Now, part of the reason I'm using this verse is because this is the common language. It says, Jesus looked and said. He looked around, and his heart was saddened because their hearts were hard. We think Jesus just knows everything everybody's thinking, and it's like this automatic Jesus thing going on. Well, if that's true, then why does the Bible so often say that he looked at them? I mean, how many know it's, last night, my grandkids are here, Hannah's family, so 4 of them. And little Wyatt turned 6 last night, so we're having a birthday party. And he's turned the other way, and his mom says to say something to Nina, who's his grandma, Deb. And so he's talking to her with his back to her. Everybody in the room's going, dude, turn around. When you talk to somebody, you look at them. So is there any reason why it says again and again that Jesus looked at them and said, well, of course it's rude not to look. The lesson we learn is that Jesus wasn't rude. No, he's reading their hearts. In some ways, horses are better at this than we are. Horses are crazy good at reading body language. So when you were riding that horse and it kind of rubbed up alongside that tree so your knee got taken out, it did it on purpose. Because it's going, I got a rookie on my back and they don't have a clue what they're doing. Let's have some fun, right? I think Nicholson's her second service, right? Yeah. Hannah Nicholson years ago when she was like a middle schooler, right? The horse is standing there. She's at summer camp, and she's so excited. And she's holding her horse's lead. And the horse goes and just stomps right on her foot. Now, it's Florida. It's sand. It just means her foot is now in the sand, right? And you hear this, I was there. Becca, Becca, the horse is standing on my foot. Okay, he's reading your body language. You need a little more confidence. Take your 2 fingers and go, boom. Did you know that? You can move a 1,000-pound animal with 2 fingers. You just poke it. And you go, that doesn't work. How does a mama horse move a baby horse? It nips it. So when they feel that localized little bit of pain, they go, oh, and they move their foot back. Right there. Okay, you now know. But the point is, horses are really good at this. That's why I think our hearts are broken. We're not really very good at this. We need to read people's hearts by what we see on the outside. This is what Jesus does again and again. Stretch out your hand, he healed the man. Okay, chapter 3, verse 34. Jesus replied, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" Then he looked at those around him and he said, "Look, these are my mother and my brothers." So what happened? They came and said, "Hey, Jesus, your family's outside. They want to talk to you." Busy. I'm busy. And he looked around at the hearts of the people that were there. And he says, these are people that want the will of God. And right now my family is trying to get in the way of the will of God. So my family are these people right here. He read their hearts. He wasn't just like flattering them. No, he was speaking truth based on his ability to read their hearts. Anyone who does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. So then he explains it. These are my family because their hearts are for God. And then the famous one in Mark chapter 8, Jesus says, I must suffer and die. We just studied this just before Easter. This must happen. All these evil, wicked, mean, bad, and nasty things must happen. And Peter goes, no way. Because he didn't want Messiah to have to suffer. Jesus turned around and looked at the disciples. So he's going to discipline Peter, but it's because he's messing with the disciples' hearts by his behavior. He is misleading them. He looked at the disciples and he reprimanded Peter. Get away from me, Satan. Now, some would argue that he's actually talking to Satan. I would say, no, he's just telling Peter which side he's on. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's. Peter had what we would think is a good desire. He wanted to protect Jesus. That's a good desire, right? Until that desire is against the will of God. Do you see that? It's not that Peter's like this horrible person, but he was thinking the way we all think, from our own perspective, not from God's perspective. What makes it a desire, an inbound desire, is it's the one that God has for you, and you're just living out God's will for your life. So connect your heart